Hello, and welcome to She Leads Biotech, the podcast that celebrates women leaders in the bioscience space. I'm your host, Sharron Cox, CEO and Managing Director of CNA International, based right here in New York. And each week I'll be talking to women leaders about their work, their triumphs and challenges, providing invaluable insight into how women can unlock their superpowers and succeed on their own terms. So whether you're navigating your own career path in bioscience or you're passionate about science and innovation, I hope you're empowered and inspired by each episode.
My guest today is a scientist by training with a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences and pharmacogenomics, who's successfully bridged the gap between early research and real-world impact. Her career spans some of the biggest names in pharma, from BMS, Roche, Lilly, and beyond, where she's honed her leadership skills, built global teams, and brought innovative oncology assets into the clinic. A builder by nature and a problem solver at heart, she's now applying all of her experience to an extraordinary platform enabling next-generation cancer research. Please welcome the CEO of SUS Clinicals, Jessicca Rege.
Jess, hey.
Hello, Sharon. How are you?
I am very well indeed. How are you?
Doing great. Just got off a nice call with an investor, so always trying to raise some money, and hopefully we did okay.
Excellent. That's always the way to you CEOs. You got to bring that money in, right?
Yes, it's show me the money. Truly.
Excellent. Well, when we first connected, I think you'd been at SUS Clinical for about 6 months at that time. We're probably getting on to a bit later now, sort of 10 months, 10 months since we first connected. So what I'd like to do is just kind of understand your journey, because you're an interesting journey, and from where you started to what brought you through to taking on that role at SUS Clinical. So where did it all start for you?
So, it all started back, I would say, in my grad school when I was really interested in cancer research. And I was just so fascinated by a disease which could outsmart our own systems. And, kind of kept wanting to do research in the space, went on to do postgraduate work, and then actually entered into the clinical space in pharma. And that's where I really, I would say, started to really feel my passion, I would say, and doing drug development and even now some of the preclinical model work is I really wanted to make a difference in trying to bring drugs to the clinic quicker or utilize tools to get drugs to the clinic quicker and really motivate the teams. I think I had shared before, I'm a huge team player. I still play softball at my age. I'm still trying my best. But that being
It's
said,
okay to be doing that still at 30, surely, Jess.
of course, yes. I say actually 35 is my spirit age. So it's perfect. But so I've just always really been passionate about building teams, getting drugs to patients quicker. And what ultimately, having a lot of experience in getting trained in large pharma and then starting up my own companies and watching them fail and or succeed. I really liked the journey of small biotech. And when the SUS clinical team reached out to me, they said, we're really trying to generate these preclinical models which can help cancer researchers bring their most promising therapies into the clinic. And we need someone with your experience, not just the pharma experience, but also the bench experience. I started researching about them and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the perfect person. I have taken drugs all the way to the finish line, so through the clinic, and then I've also worked at all the way down to identifying a target that we want to work in and moving it from target identification into IND enabling studies and then ultimately into the first in human trials. And what better of a person that can bridge the two, knowing what's the finish line and aligned to my passion in trying to get drugs to patients as quick as possible. So now I'm working on building better preclinical models to help get drugs into the clinic quicker. So those people like me, or that used to be like me, can move those drugs to the patients ultimately faster.
So, and what exactly does Seuss Clinicals do? I know it involves pigs.
Yeah. So my son I'll tell you what my son calls me, but let me tell you what we do. So we have a genetically modified pig. And that genetically modified pig, what it does is we are able to generate tumors on demand. And those tumors are what enables cancer researchers to basically study their most promising therapeutics to get them into the clinic as quick as possible. So our model enables you to test everything of efficacy, safety, as well as metabolism into one model system. Because typically in drug development, particularly in oncology, we use small animals for efficacy because that's the best tool we have. And then we use large animals for safety. Well, I've cured a lot of mice in my career, but I've not cured a lot of cancer patients. And I told you I'm always trying to get better drugs. And then similarly, monkeys and or non-human primates as well as dogs are great tools for us to understand, how the drug is metabolized or the safety behind the device or the tool that we're utilizing. But they don't actually have the disease such as oncology that we're studying. So our genetically modified OncoPIG allows you to ask all those questions within one model system. And so this is what gets me excited is I want to be able to help those researchers make those questions, particularly when we're in early times of development, quicker, faster, and can either kill something quicker or move it along quicker. Both of those are great things to be able to do when you're trying to develop drugs.
Yeah, particularly if you want to get from that early stage through to the next one, right?
Right.
And so, what does your son call you?
So my son calls me a mutant pig farmer. Now that's all going to be because of him, and I guess you, the world will know me as my mutant pig farming.
So you got to change your LinkedIn profile.
Definitely. I guess going back to my roots because I spent a lot of time on the farm growing up. So now I'm truly back to my root.
So I know you spent a really impressive amount of time in the big companies, Roche, Lilly, BMS. You were with them all. What did you learn in those companies that you were then able to take into small bio? Because it's a completely different setup, right? So what enabled you through your experiences to take that next step into small bio?
I think what I learned the most in all of the, great opportunities with the large pharmas is first and foremost, the basics, the real strong foundation. I'm always, we were talking about my son, I'm always telling my son, it's all about your foundations. You have to have the strong foundation in order to grow from an educational standpoint. So I will tell you the Roche, the Lillies of the world, great, amazing companies that allowed me to really understand drug development, the nuances behind them, all of the caveats and the extreme expertise that we see within each of their arenas, whether you're working with a statistician or an operations or a preclinical leader, they really know their stuff. They're just amazing at a technical, deep insight. That foundation allowed me to kind of, I would say, be really confident when I was in a company where it was only, four of us in one of the companies that I started to be able to say, okay, let me phone a friend. I don't know, but I know a lot because, again, I had that strong foundation. So to me, I think it really just, again, allowed that building block for me to take that leap in. And then I like to wear all the hats, but not necessarily be so narrowly focused into a technical field. So I try to use my connections to be able to help me. And then I partner each of that work or that idea or that expertise out.
Right.
Okay. And what were the challenges that you endured or faced or whatever coming up as a woman coming up in that pharma world?
So I think one of the most difficult challenges was trying to balance work life, particularly when, I wanted to become a mom and I wanted to be there for my kid, but at the same time, I wanted to ensure that I was growing my career. So that was, I would say, the hardest challenge. I remember one time I had a boss that my son was sick and in the daycare, and the daycare called and said, "We need you to come get your son because he's running the fever." And I was like, "Okay, but I'm supposed to be in an important meeting with my boss. Like, what am I supposed to do?" Well, you have to wear the mom hat first, right? That's the first and foremost job. And I remember, yeah, I remember walking into that meeting and saying, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I've got to go get my son. He's sick." And my boss at the time was a female, and she had said, "Well, don't you have anyone else that can come get?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I'm in a different state than any of my family members." And my, ex-husband at the time was working and he couldn't do it. To me, it was just like, I was expecting another female to kind of lean in and be like, "Hey, what can I do?" But it was more like, well, you're supposed to be here and do your job. And so I think it was always that balancing because I was always scared to tell people, "Hey, I'm a mom. I've got to go do this." But at the same time, I was like, I am a mom and I am going to go do this. And so that to me has enabled me to grow as a leader because now when my teams are like, "Hey, my kid's sick," or I'm the first person to say, "Hey, you dump whatever you need on me," because I don't want to be that leader that is not supportive of the whole person. I want them to come to work authentic. And if they're a mom or a dad or what, and they need to wear that hat for that moment, I think that's what's going to make them do their job even better.
Absolutely. And do you think that that experience was indicative of the time, and that it's changed over the years, or that it's still? I mean, I can imagine back in the day, there's a lot of us who were women managers and and the feeling was we almost had to be masculine. We almost had to be like the men. So you'd go, "Oh, you must have somebody else to do it. I've got to be here and you must have somebody else to do it." Has society changed that in your view? And that there are, as a result of that, more and more women like you, or those women leaders who are still, there are those women leaders who are still like, "Where do you think you're going?" kind of thing.
So I I think we have moved a long way. And I do believe, and I mean, you saw the JP Morgan and the power of pink, right? Yeah. So I do believe we've moved a long way from, of course, when I was, what, 12 or so, because we just said I was 30.
Child labor, I know.
So I do believe we are seeing an impact. I will say, though, pretty recently, it was probably about a year or so, maybe 2 years or so ago, I had a young lady that I was mentoring, and she was pregnant and she was so worried about going on maternity leave and then coming back and not being offered some opportunities. And I was trying to reassure her, like, "No, those will be there. It's definitely but remember, you have to ask. You have to feel confident enough to ask. And you also have to be confident enough to be the one to say, 'Hey, I'm a mom first.'" And I shared a little bit about my previous story, and telling her it's not the same as it was when I was kind of growing up in the industry. But I do think the other thing that kind of set us back a little bit, I think we're coming out of it again though, was COVID, right? When COVID and we were all having to work from home. Well, I hate to say, when you have a young kid at home, 9 times out of 10, the toddlers or the little ones want their mom before they want their dad. Not to say I've seen amazing fathers and they've done amazing things. Don't get me wrong. But it's just that innate, I'm going to go to mom and ask for the Cheerios versus going to dad. And so I think COVID kind of set us back a little bit when we all had to work from home together. And then again, I also think the moms that were working really hard and trying to do that work-life balance were like, oh my God, I almost want to go back to work, right? So they get a break. Or two, they're like, wait a minute, I was getting so much great time with my kid at home. And that hour commute driving in or that hour commute driving home, I was getting those extra 2 hours with my kid. So I say we have moved. JP Morgan, Pink, awesome. Look, we're all here and there. But I still think we have a ways to go.
And I mean, I'm still seeing in the bioscience space that remote or hybrid is more acceptable than in some other industries. But I think there's definitely been a pull back to the office. Do you see that as a good thing, a bad thing, or
My motto is if you are a good employee and you are working hard and there is no diminished returns on what you're putting out, I don't care where you work or what time you work. Now, again, if we have a meeting at 1 o'clock, we need to be in the meeting at 1 o'clock. I don't think everyone has that same philosophy. And I also do believe that even though I might have that philosophy, I do see people abuse the system as well. And so it's a balancing act that you have to kind of look at and kind of keep the teams in check. But I truly believe if your work ethic is sound and you are able to provide a good work product, it really doesn't matter where you work or where you live.
yeah,
You can get it done.
get the job? As long as you get the job done, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's that. I mean, that's something that I'm working through myself at the moment because I'm out on Long Island in a little town called Great Neck that nobody really knows where it is. So to actually be able to get people to travel out of Manhattan to come here is challenging. But when I was in the UK before I moved here to the US, I was part of a region and I was managing a team of people and everybody was in the office and it was all I'd ever known. So, when COVID hit or when I came here and found that I had to hire remote staff in order to get any work done, it was a real shock for me. And the first to admit it, I was probably, one of those bosses that are like, well, why can't everybody be in the office? Why, I think that managers themselves have to take that element of responsibility to make sure that they're managing the remote people properly so that they do get the opportunity to do the work and get it delivered on time by having those proper follow-ups and those proper meetings and everything else. And I'm still working on that, but thankfully the people who work with me are working through it with me. But it is it's a challenge, right? But I'm glad to see that we're coming further than it was in the sort of 70s and 80s at some.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a challenge, but I used to even tell my remote employees and even still tell my remote employees that there is still huge benefits of those face-to-face meetings. And I'm a firm believer of those. I mean, I even with my investors, I try to spend FaceTime with them again, because it's one thing to send them an email, hey, here's my updates. It's another thing to say, hey, here's my cell phone number. Happy to hop on a Zoom call with you to make sure any of your needs or questions are met. So I do think it still is an important aspect that sometimes people don't realize the value of that FaceTime.
Yeah. And again, that's something that I miss. Working across the country is really difficult. You can't just say, well, let me just pop in. But to actually be more present at conventions and those kind of get-togethers and one of my plans for 2025 has been to try these little road shows of meeting groups of people, going to Philadelphia or going to Boston or those areas to spend time, because there really is nothing quite like being in person with people, is there? I totally agree.
No, I think it does make it makes a huge difference. I mean, it's not like we do, Christmas dinner over Zoom with our families. So if we all make the time and effort to go do it with our families, and again, it is our work families if we think about it. So I do think it's really important. And even when I was working in, the very large pharmaceutical organizations that had global presence, not only was I in the office all the time, but I tried to make sure I had very close connections with anyone that was in another country. Because again, when you had a breakdown, you wanted to make sure it wasn't going to, cause a huge fire in another country rather than just pick up the phone and say, "Hey, wait a minute, I'm not sure what's happening." I think again, those relationship building make sure the fire gets put out.
Started. I don't know what's happened with the phone these days. Fewer people are actually picking up the phone or answering the phone. Maybe that's just me. Maybe they're looking and going, no, we're not answering her. That's just gonna.
Maybe it's I haven't had that much of a problem with at least my teams. Maybe with some of other individuals where you're trying to get a connection, but my team picks up pretty quick. But I hate to say it, I don't know if it's because of my title. I don't like to say that the title helps, but they're probably picking up because it wouldn't look good probably if the CEO's calling and then it's like, I'm going to pass that one.
I'm just going to let that go. Not important.
When my chairman of the board calls me, I'm going to pick that one up.
That's very true. So, as I said, you've been at Seuss now for like 10 months. How has that been going into that role and your leadership style and adapting with the board and everywhere else? How have you found that part of your journey?
So actually it's been great. At first it was just kind of spending the first 3 months understanding more about what they were doing and where their focus was and deep diving into the weeds, I would say.
Yep.
And then I would say I pivoted probably in the last 3 months or so, really building the focus and where we're going to go to be able to ensure that we can really deliver on what we need to deliver on so we can increase our value as we continue to move forward. It's always funny when you start to work with a small biotech, everybody's so excited. Oh, we've got this in our R&D and this in our R&D and this, and it's great. I will tell you, it's so hard. I have to turn off my doctor PhD hat and say, okay, I am a scientist and that is the coolest thing since sliced bread. And I really want to understand that. But you kind of have to take a, kind of step back and say, okay, although that's really cool, we need to focus on what's going to be able to get us to additional revenue generating, additional value creation. And if we get the revenue and we get the value creation, then we're going to go and pull those really cool things out of the candy box. And so it's hard because I'm working with a great group of scientists. They are some of the most fantastic and eager to learn, as well as just bright minds. But you kind of have to explain to them, okay, guys, I need you to wear a business hat. I know you're a scientist, but I still need you to wear a business hat. And that's a little bit different, right? Because you're trying to turn the company into, a revenue generating, then ultimately a profit generating company. And so it took a little time. They were just like, but we're not salespeople. And it's like, I'm not asking you to be salespeople. I'm asking you to understand why we're focusing on this versus not focusing on this. So that's been fun. It's, a little bit of an uphill battle. But now we're really focused. We've built a strong and really complemented our scientific advisory board that we put on. And so I get really excited about watching the team progress. And I think what's been the most rewarding or kind of small little things that sometimes I wonder if I'm making a difference or if I'm just a pain in the butt is on.
I'm sure that's not the case. Let's not go there.
I'm a bit of a driver, but it was funny. I think on International Women's Day, which was relatively recent, right?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
One of the individuals on the team sent me just a nice little email saying, Jessicca, I just wanted to say thank you for all that you do. And, I'm really excited to be working for you. Those are the moments that it's like, oh my God, I am making a difference and I'm trying my best. So it's those little moments when you're working with the team, or even when I have past people that used to work for me that are like, hey, Jess, I thought about you today and I thought about what you would tell me in this situation. Those are the moments that I'm like, it's like when my kid finally answers a text. He's a team leader, so he never answers the text.
Yeah.
It's
Three days of waiting. Excellent. So, what does the next 5 years look like for you? Where are you looking to take Seuss Clinical, and what does your journey look like for the next 5 years or so?
So I'm hoping within the next 5 years, we'll have an additional miniature size version of our OncoPIG, as well as additional models and tools that will further enable researchers to conduct like precision based medicine or specific like point mutations or specific tumors that they want to have something overexpressed. These are all models that we're building. Um, so I'm hoping those will all be commercialized. And we will be within, I would say, the next 2 to 3 years from a revenue generating company, which we are now, to a profitable company. And then ultimately continue to bring on and enhance more and more models. So I hope to be even through our Series A raise by then as well. And 24 months is where I hope to move from the seed into the Series A round, which again, I think that's really going to, we'll have some pharma partners, behind us. We'll have some additional device companies behind us. Those have always been our early adopters. And so hopefully people will know all about our OncoPIG, and we're going to be the best pig preclinical model builder.
And you'll be the best onco pig farmer on the planet, right?
Yes, I'll continue to enhance my farming abilities.
But you're definitely in a sweet spot for you, right? Because of all of your background leading up to it, and it's really calling on all aspects of your background to kind of put you in this here and now spot. So I would say for you, I'm in a good place right now. Would you say so?
I think that's what kind of got me super excited when I was a chief development officer or a C-suite role prior. I always said one day I want to be a CEO of a company, right? And when this one came about, it was like, oh my gosh, it is. It just as you said, it's in the sweet spot because I know how to develop drugs through the clinic and ultimately get them approved. And I've done all the bench work from my graduate school days and even led teams in the preclinical. And so now I'm right at the pivot point to be able to take a preclinical company and kind of take us into the realm of a profitable company, hopefully within the next 3 to 4 years.
Excellent, exciting times. And I've no doubt that that's exactly what's going to happen. So, having done all of that, what would your advice be to women who are coming through? Maybe they're scientists right now, not sure where to go or what the future's going to look like for them, particularly in challenging times for science and researchers. What would your advice be to them to inspire them along their way?
So I think one is to be authentic, to be deliberate, and to be focused. And if they do all three of those, I think they will be very successful. I know I've worked with many individuals and managers and or leaders in the past that they were like, oh my gosh, Jessicca automatically will speak out when she thinks, you know, differently. And at first people were not sure about it. Like, why we just told her what to do. And I'm like, well, I'm fine doing something, but I truly believe you need to say, okay, well, what if we did it this way better? And you have to listen. And so that's why I really think being authentic. I told you about the time that I stood up kind of to my boss. I'm authentic. I'm a mom first. So I'm always going to stand up for that. So I think if you're able to kind of navigate those three things, being authentic, being very deliberate in what you want to do, and then staying focused, I truly believe they will be able to be successful. And I would say find a partner, find your mentor, find your core group of cheerleaders, because those cheerleaders are going to take you all the way to the top and continue to cheer when you're at the top on those bad days. When I will say I have those days where I'm like, now who do I talk to? I go and talk to some of my old cheerleaders. So it helps.
And do you find it's helpful to stay within women cheerleaders and women supporting women groups, or is it healthy to have a more expanded cheerleading group?
I find I want both because I want to be able to have that balance. Sometimes I need to go to a cheerleader that's a woman and say, hey, am I looking at this in the wrong angle, or would you see it that same way? And then sometimes I need to take that exact same situation and take it to a male and say, am I going overboard, or because they give you that balance. So it's just kind of like what we do, right? We need to research both angles to make sure that we're making the best decision for us. So I like the balance. So I have in my network, I have very strong female mentors and I have very strong male mentors.
Excellent. Yeah, I've always been a big believer in having that mix because you get those different perspectives from that stops you kind of going down one path when you should be looking at others as well.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Jess, it's been absolutely fabulous talking to you. I know you've had a busy day already, and I really do appreciate you taking the time out to spend some time with me this afternoon. I wish you every success with the OncoPIG. We should give it a name, really, shouldn't we? But then maybe not. And I just keep thinking about that, but
Keep thinking about it. I mean, Wilbur, right? That's the common pig name, I guess. But OncoPIG kind of helps, right?
it works. It knows what it said on the tin.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it fits it absolutely. There's no doubt what the purpose of it is. So I wish you every success with that and your continued investments. I know that you'll be out there talking to investors and bringing in that money to get you to the next stage. And I look forward to following your success as you're doing so. And hopefully we'll actually get to meet in person and be able to share a cup of coffee or a cocktail and talk about farming.
Sounds great. I'll invite my son along for that too. So
Oh, definitely. I'd get my daughter to come, but she's 3,500 miles away, so probably wouldn't work. But I say, enjoy the rest of your day. It's been fabulous, and thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. She Leads Biotech is brought to you by CNA International USA, a woman-owned boutique search firm based in New York. If you're looking to hire talent for your company or want support in achieving your career goals, please reach out to me at contact@cnaint.com. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. And remember, the success of every woman should be an inspiration to another. So don't be afraid to share yours. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.